We are joined today by the legend that is Roger Bigsby, and from the Skill Builder channel, who has kind of brought this stuff to our attention. The poor homeowner in question, John, and just a couple of the Heat Geeks who helped rescue this for John and his family. For those who do not recognise the faces, you want to introduce yourself, chaps?
Hi, I'm John Morgan. I'm the unfortunate homeowner. I had a really very bad install.
I'm Roger Bigsby. I run the Skill Builder channel along with my colleague there, Dylan Garton, who's on the camera, and we film all things to do with the building industry. Heating is part of it, and more importantly, lately, heat pumps.
My name is Aaron Bradbury, the Director of Clean Heat Solutions based down in Hampshire.
I'm Tommy Jones, and I like to prove Roger wrong. Heat pumps do work.
So, John, what was the driver to get a heat pump in the first place, and how long ago did you have your one installed?
Well, it was about 6-7 years ago, and I was at a country show. There was a heat pump company there. I was very much aligned to the whole sustainable energy issue and carbon. It seemed like it was not going to cost me much, although there's no upfront charge, because I get the money back through the RHI from the government. And I more or less felt it was just a straight replacement for a gas boiler. That was more or less what I was sold. But things started to go wrong almost as soon as the installers left. So,
What did you wish you'd known then before you'd signed on the dotted line from what you know now?
well, the key thing is to find an installer that's got a good reputation and integrity and really has a joy for the work.
You eventually lost patience and obviously called Roger in.
Yeah, the original suggestion to Roger was, can you find a quarry where I can blow this heat pump up so you can put it on your channel and show what a bloody awful idea they are.
John watched our video, the original video I did, which said that the government's idea to rip out gas boilers and put in heat pumps as a car crash waiting to happen. And I just described a load of things that were going on in the industry. We're getting countless emails from people every week saying, I've had a heat pump installed, it is a complete disaster. It's costing me a fortune, the house is cold, and the thing just doesn't work. And so all their promises, they've got the government grant, they've taken the 5,000 quid to add to the install. Now they're left with a system that doesn't work, and nobody's helping them. Nobody's going to take the system out, put a new one in for them. So they were stuck. So John, initially, he just contacted us to say, look, everything you said in your video has come to pass in my house. It's a perfect example of all the things you said. I totally agree with you. And I said, John, you live up the road. This is an ideal opportunity for us to come round and film this, showing people just how bad heat pumps are and how they don't work, you know, especially in a house which is old, solid walls, all the rest of it. So we made this video with John, and then the Heat Geek guys saw it and they said, you guys are completely wrong. You're blaming the heat pump. It's all down to a bad installation. Now, unfortunately, the people that installed John's heat pump went out of business very soon after installing.
Quite a common story.
And this happens all the time. We've seen this over and over again. And this, again, is some of the objection I got to government grants, because they bring all kinds of people into the business. Everybody smells the money. They're all in there for the quick buck, and then they bugger off. So the whole point is, for me, that you've got to use small local installers. You've got to use the guys who are already installers. They've already got years of experience installing gas boilers and everything else. Every single grant scheme I've ever seen has pushed those guys out, pushed them away. The very people you want, the local guy that you trust, is not able to participate in the scheme. And this is where things have now changed, partly because of Heat Geek, but partly because of a lot of other initiatives. But it is starting to change, and I'm starting to have hope that this won't be the car crash that I thought it would be.
I think it just goes to show the training is the important part that we've undertaken with Heat Geek. And it was a long journey, but we've learned. It's, you know, a great course to do. It was quite hard, but I'm glad I did it, and I feel very confident when I go into a property. It's all about the system design, correct sizing of the heat pump, heat losses, and pipe sizing, etc.
It's really easy to blame the heat pump. You know, I was fine and warm with a boiler. Now I've had a heat pump, and now I'm cold, and it's expensive to run. But
The problem that the installers have got is when you go and do your BPEC qualification, it's rubbish. Manufacturers, unfortunately, don't understand everything they need to, and they're trying to sell a package all of the time. But what John had was literally a package that was sold to an installer with a drawing that was wrong, that was then put in, but then they don't understand why it's wrong. If you understand the system, whether it's a heat pump, whether it's a boiler, whether it's wood pellet, biomass, it's your system that's the important part, because the heat is pushed into the house. It's not hard. Knowing how you do it is a difficult bit. But then when you turn up to a job like John's and they're going, this is rubbish, it's all got to go, and we're going to keep the gas boiler, and we're going, this is actually quite easy. We ripped out so much
Massive
and put
pile of
in
scrap.
so little. There was a pile of stuff outside, just wasn't needed. Thousands of pounds worth of stuff that's just not needed. But the manufacturers want to shift their white boxes. They want to shift the buffer, an indoor unit. They want to shift the plate heat exchanger. We've put in an air source heat pump. That's it.
We changed one rad in the house. Didn't
One
we?
rad,
That was
done
it.
a bit with the underfloor heating.
Yeah.
But we put in a hot water tank and we put in a heat pump.
Do you feel that rad, Roger?
All I was going to say is don't forget that we also insulated John's loft, because we mustn't forget that when we went up into his loft, he had probably 25 mil of blown insulation in there. It was way in it, not even beginning to be adequate, sorry. And so we put in 200 mil of loft insulation, I think, yeah? And that immediately transformed the whole situation. All I want to say is don't anybody run away with the idea that you just take a cold house, put in a heat pump and it becomes warm, because you must look at the fabric of the building, you must look at the insulation, because he would have been, with the inadequate insulation he had, he would have been just verging on having to have a 3-phase, heat pump put in. So it's very, very important that you try to minimise the heat losses in the house. Then you get these guys and put in the best system. I'm not claiming the credit. I'm saying just don't forget that insulation, all right?
You've also got to be careful talking to the fabric of the building. If you go and do a consultation heat loss survey, if there are changes that should be made, do them first. So if you put a heat pump in to the heat loss that you've got, then they put in new double glazing, then they do cavity wall, then they do loft. You then got an oversized heat pump, which is as bad as having an undersized heat pump.
One of the flaws in heat pump design, if you like, from my point of view, is that it depends upon you getting an accurate sized heat pump. With a combi boiler, you put it in, it will modulate. Okay, I know some modulate better than others, but it will adjust to the heating load. Only recently have heat pumps started to work in that way, and that was, to me, a major flaw, a major downside. So if you get that wrong, you're stuffed.
So a combi boiler, predominantly 30 kilowatt, most of them 4-to-1 modulation, that's 7.5 kilowatts in a house that needs
7 kilowatts.
most of the year, or so they don't modulate low enough, and they start at a high rate, and they don't come down low enough to condense. So what happens is, as they say, stuff gets hot. And if your rads get hot and your hot water gets hot, you think you're nice and warm and your system's working. It's not. It's going to die in 8 years' time.
Maybe.
Definitely.
It's definitely not condensing as it should. We know that it's not working at high efficiency, but you can switch it off. This is the thing.
But
You
if
get
you-
too
okay.
warm, on and on off thermostat. When you get too warm, you switch it off. When you switch it off, it is working at 100% efficiency.
When
you
you
won't get it
put-
to work better than that.
When you put food in the fridge and it gets cold, do you turn your fridge off?
But I thought we were talking about heating, Tommy, not freezing.
All
We
the
are.
same, all the
It's
same.
all
Roger,
the same.
All the same. Let's try and bring this back on track. So, guys, any homeowners out there, is there any red flags you look for in a proposal or a design?
Yeah, the size of the heat pump. But you will find a lot of companies will go and do a heat loss and say, okay, you've got 7 kilowatt heat loss. Then you look at the proposal and there's a 16 kilowatt heat pump. Why?
Just in case.
Happens a lot. Or you've got a 16 kilowatt heat pump and a big buffer. Why? Because that's what we're told to put in. Your heat loss should match your heat pump, but then be careful, because heat pumps outputs isn't necessarily what's written on the side of it. It depends on your external temperature and the water going through the system. So someone to explain that to you, if they can't explain that to you, show them the front door and say thank you very much, goodbye, because the rest of it's all going to go wrong.
We get people who are saying, I am beyond my tether with this. It's gone so far, it's affecting my mental health. We hear all about that.
Yeah.
We wish we'd never gone down this route. And of course they tell their friends, don't have a heat pump. Whatever you do, do not have a heat pump. This has been a disaster. And the other thing is, they can't get people to service them. They can't get anybody out to fix the problems with the heat pump. Now these guys are pushed. Tommy was telling me earlier that he is booked up for months in advance. If anybody wants to have a heat pump installed, they're going to have to be booking up for, well, they might as well put their name down for 2 years' time, really, you know, because that's the reality of it. And they're all telling me the same thing. All the Heat Geeks guys, they are growing as a band. There aren't enough of them out there to do the job. So honestly, it breaks my heart when I get these emails from people saying, please, 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 come and help us, do what you did for John. And these guys, they can't carry on doing that. They've got to fit in new ones, but they could earn their living just going out fixing the existing problems.
Yeah.
So how did this happen? This is what I want to know. How did this happen?
Because when the government get involved, money goes where it shouldn't go, and idiots get the jobs. And you can actually say, although we're Heat Geeks and all the rest of it, prior to this, there was nothing, absolutely nothing that got anywhere near educating people enough to put them in. Even the guys that are doing the courses now and have done the courses are coming up to us over the last 3 days, almost petrified about taking that step because they don't think they know enough. So you can imagine, you've got these big companies, the one I spoke to earlier, oh, half of our team do heat pumps. So who's the actual lead engineer? One of the guy in the office has done the design, they go and put it all in. You need to know what you're doing. And that's where it all went wrong. We're similar, we get tons of emails, can you come and have a look, can you come and put it right? We are booked up, we are flat out, we are looking for people to come on board. But then you've got issues with manufacturers' warranties. Because the stuff isn't put in right, the warranty is invalid. If the warranty is invalid, it's a mega expensive thing to put right. But the majority of the time, it's not the heat pump. It's what's connected to the heat pump and how it's connected to the house. You can take that apart, redo that, no problem. But it's 2-3 days work. It's not a quick fix. It's not like a gas boiler. You've got to go back in, do the heat loss. I can't turn up at someone's house and go, oh yeah, that's wrong, without doing a full heat loss of the house to know what it should have. So you've got half a day doing that. Then you've got the time spent putting it all right. It's expensive. And unfortunately, from an honest point of view, putting in a heat pump is more profitable than just messing about with one. And we're booked up till January. So if people are getting in touch now, can you come out and have a look? No, we just can't.
I've got probably about 3 projects at the moment running. They've already been fitted, about something like 4 or 5 years. One guy's got a bill of over 10,000, another is 20,000, and one in the New Forest is 30,000.
Just to create the systems.
Yeah, well no, that's their bill. That's their yearly bill.
The energy bill.
Their energy bill, and it's just crazy. I mean, some of these places are huge sort of places. But I've gone in, first thing I did was a heat loss, just sort of is undersized pipe work, not insulated outside. I think they had the flow and return the wrong way around. It was just so much, right the way down to the correct underfloor, to the radiators being sized. So yeah, we're going in and we're doing it's picking up. It's a lot more of it, but it is time consuming still.
Yeah,
a lot of design.
I think that the new proposed changes to MCS give them a bit more clout to kind of come down on these companies. It's going to help. Yeah, as Tommy said, we'll see, but it's what's needed, and the industry isn't perfect. It's learning, it's changing, it's.
The biggest thing, if you like, elephant in the room, as they say, is that there just aren't enough people out there. The guys who have fitted gas boilers are retiring. The youngsters aren't coming through from the colleges. So we are facing a crisis. If the government seriously thinks they're going to ban the production of gas boilers by 2035, turn everybody onto heat pumps. They are in cloud cuckoo land as always, because it just won't happen. Unless with something really radical happens, then we're not going to get there. So I don't know what the answer is. If anybody out there would like to suggest something, maybe we need forced labour. Maybe we need to, Rishi was talking about. We need to send everybody on national service, bring back national service. We need to force them to become plumbers, if you like, or something. But something's got to happen, because without it, this is just pie in the sky. This is all lovely, glossy. Without these guys, we're nowhere.
We've got to start somewhere, though. We can't not start, surely.
Well,
none of it's happening overnight, so you just got to start.
People say this all the time. We've got to start somewhere. But I am one of those people that think, okay, let's put our ducks in a row. Let's get things sorted out. Let's have a strategy. Let's have a plan, because all the time with governments, I don't know whether you've noticed this, but with governments, they see one step ahead. They're not chess players. They're not looking 5 moves ahead. And they turn around, they go, oh, we didn't expect that to happen. We didn't expect unintended consequences of what they do. And so unless they have a strategy, they throw your money, taxpayers' money, at a scheme, and a couple of years later going, oh, guess what, that didn't work, but it's only £12 billion. Who cares about £12 billion? It's small change. PPE, that would be an example, wouldn't it? They're burning £30 billion worth of PPE now because it's past its sell-by date. I don't know.
I've been talking to a college quite close to us who are looking at doing the gas course again next year. But when I asked them if they were doing anything to do with low system temp design and heat pumps, we're not quite ready yet. Well, if they're not ready to teach it, and that's a 3-year course, we're then 3 years back. Yeah. So we're trying to drag people through now by what we do, because they're not teaching it. But they're not even offering it, but no chance. Was it 34,000 MCS installs last year, and they want 600,000? We've got to multiply by 20.
Yeah.
No chance. And all of us who are expanding, who are looking for other engineers to come through, there's Era looking for the same. There's Octopus looking for the same. There's these companies that are coming in, and they're taking students out of college that are doing their level 3 because they only need their level 2 to start working for those in plumbing. So they're taking them out of college and offering them 32 grand a year, but the kids are going, 32 grand, I'm off. Jumping into them, they're not putting in systems right. So they don't get any training whatsoever. We've got no one left.
Good point. Coming back to John's install, because we could rant about the state of the industry all day, I'm sure. I checked on Open Energy Monitor this weekend and before coming to the show, and John's install is now 7th in the top of the Scots table, which is, pretty good. It's running amazing 461% Scop is around that. It's been in since 5 yesterday, but it was bloody hot yesterday, so but that's the whole idea of Scop, right? It's just to kind of get a seasonal thing. It's been in since the 23rd of Jan. You've had some cold spells in that. And how is it now living in the house? And more importantly, is Alison now happy?
Alison is a lot happier, therefore I'm happy. It's been quite interesting because Adam was trying to persuade me that a 9-inch brick wall could sustain a heat pump and maintain temperature. Now, I was very skeptical, and I know Roger was really skeptical about it. But to be fair, we've had 3 cold snaps over a few days since February, and the temperature stayed a rock solid 20 degrees, which was what it was set at. So we haven't had a full season yet. We haven't had below 0 temperatures, but I'm reasonably confident it's going to work out very well. Certainly the experience since February is very, very, very positive. And the day will come, I hope, where we can take the gas boiler out, because my wife insisted, having had such an appalling experience first time round, that she wasn't going to get rid of it until the system proved itself. And that was the deal. Even though we were going to be given a free install, even so, she was so tarnished by the whole experience, as Roger adequately explained. And by the way, the heat pump industry had a real go at Roger, which really wound me up.
Oh.
Which is why I turned to him thereafter, because he was in the right as far as I was concerned.
I don't think you're to worry about people having a go at me. That's what I'm here for. I could go to stocks and they could throw rotten fruit at me. I'm not worried. It's all I want to do is create a debate. And I just want to ask you one thing about yesterday. It was scorching hot, we know, and you said you had a cop of 5.6. What the hell did you have your heating on for yesterday?
That was just the water. In fact, I turned it off last night.
Right, so you got hot water, and then when you were getting the hot water yesterday going through your heat pump into the cylinder, you were getting 5.6. So for every kilowatt you put in, you get 5.6 value out. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. That sounds like something that we all ought to be looking at. I genuinely would love to see heat pumps have a place, but I just think it's a fiasco.
I don't know if you're going to ask this. Have you looked at your energy usage with the new heat pump compared with the old one?
Yeah. With Adam, we did some figures, and it's more than twice as efficient. So.
And does that also take into account you was running a gas boiler as well, or is that extra?
Oh, that's extra. Yeah. Gas boiler was
Another
still doing
mic
the
drop.
water.
Going forward, what can we do to instill confidence in homeowners with heat pumps? Silence Roger, turn his mic off?
Well, you can get rid of me, for a start, because all the time I'm out there putting this bad news out about heat pumps. A lot of people have been affected by that, and I know the government did start consulting, and I had a guy from Glasgow University who interviewed me about where I thought it was going wrong, and I told him not. I told him a lot of things that they could do differently, but as I say, without a strategy, I don't know where we're going to go. I'm depressed by the whole idea, because without getting people to want to do that job of putting them in, people of this caliber, and honestly, I don't want to blow smoke up any of their anatomy at all, but when I listened to these guys having a chat, they all came down mob-handed to do John's job. And you listen to them talk, and I thought, these guys their knowledge is way beyond anything that I've come across with normal installers. These guys are the elite. If you want a good job done, there's no doubt that these are the guys to go to do it. But the level of knowledge they were going on, that one, the X636/4, isn't as good as the... And I was thinking, what do you do with this? Do you have a life other than this?
We're
But they
not,
are.
we're not actually very interesting.
But that geek bit absolutely perfectly describes them. They are all geeks. But
I think the last 20, 30 years in the heating industry has been a little bit de-skilled. In order to switch to heat pumps, you've got to up the game. And
that was the combi boiler.
Yeah,
a
exactly.
plasterer could put in a combi boiler, and the chippy could then put in a combi boiler. The combi boiler killed knowledge. You didn't need it. If you could put it in without blowing somebody up, it would get hot. People would do it. Now, you've actually got... And I'll tell you the other thing that I've picked up on since switching completely over to heat pumps. You are valued more as a heat pump engineer than you are as a gas engineer, even though it's the same bloody thing. But people seem to think you've got this bit of black magic that you're going to bring out and make everything all... No, it's maths. It's all it is maths.
Do some maths.
maths I find quite difficult, to be fair. And what I'm asking is, why can't they make a heat pump that is as simple as a combi boiler to put in, that adjusts to the heat load and everything else? Because until you get to that plug and play, we're talking about the early days of computers here, when you needed to know loads of stuff just to switch a computer on. And now what we need is a heat pump that you can just shove into any property, works out what the householder needs and adjusts to it. And when we do that...
But that's what it does. But, so if you've got a combination boiler and you've just run two 10 mil flow and returns through the entire system, it's not going to work, is it? Why do you know that that's not going to work? Because you haven't got the flow rate. What's the difference with a heat pump? You just have to work out the flow rate. That's the only difference that you've got. It's combination boilers and gas boilers are all oversized. They've got massive pumps in them to stop warranty calls, to compensate for the crap pipework. A heat pump will do the same thing. It's just going to cost you a fortune to run. That's the difference in it. And what gets flagged up is where it costs you a fortune to run, it's then the heat pump's fault. No, every single heat pump in here will work. In this building, there are tons of them. There's new ones coming out. They will all work if you put it in right. With the gas boiler, you can have the worst gas boiler install in the world. As long as it isn't going to kill someone, it'll get hot. That's the difference.
The fundamental, I always say the fundamental difference between a good and a bad boiler install is probably 10% efficiency. You go from 90 to 80% efficiency, but a heat pump, you're looking between 200% efficiency and 400, 500% efficiency. Twice as much to run. If you get it wrong, we've got away with murder for years with oversized boilers, hot radiators, all thinking we're heating engineers. When we're not, the skill is doing it at low temperatures, high flow rates. That's the skill.
But given the fact that the government is using, as I keep saying, taxpayers' money to subsidise this whole thing, shouldn't there be better quality control? Shouldn't there be something in place that makes sure that the householder is protected when they take that £7,500 grant and they've had this installed and they find that their house is cold and the bills are twice as much as they were? At that point, there must be something that they can do to address that problem. And at the moment, they're kind of left, and the government's not coming back to the company and saying, you put that right. And that's, to me, is the flaw. Maybe, like Tommy said, it's going to happen.
Should have had a conversation with a guy that was here an hour and a half ago, because the MCS is what's let everyone down. That and the consumer codes and everyone fighting about who's going to take responsibility for it has let it all down. If they do what they say they're going to do, and they're actually going to put some teeth in and go after people, you got a bit more protection. But that's the only way it's going to happen.
And better training for everyone.
So, just going to finish off. Obviously you touched on it, Roger, that we got 50% of gas installers over 50, staring down the barrel of retirement. They're not going to, probably unlikely to retrain. We need a new army of people coming into the industry. What do you think makes a good installer? What do you think the essence is of a good installer?
I would say someone that is just keen to learn, just passionate about it. So you just, everyone has to start somewhere. Not always the best. I started with the training. The rest of my training has come from talking to other installers, forums, and just sort of understanding the system, which started with the Heat Geek training, and then things started to click. But also just being passionate about having the best installation and the best efficiencies out of a heat pump.
And you've got to be careful, because it's hard work. It's physically hard work. It's back-breaking sometimes. But there's a lack of people coming through into any of the manual side of the construction industry, because it seems to be, I would say kids don't want to do it, but there's easier options. You can make good money in this. You can make good money.
You can make ridiculously good money if you look at you, Tommy. But I'm just going to say I talk about these guys being the geeks and being the elite, and I was amazed to find out what you did in your previous life. So can you just tell us briefly where you came from?
My previous life, I was in the Navy. I did 15 years in the Navy in Portsmouth. I sort of had enough of that, left, and I retrained. And I got into the plumbing and heating when I was 32. Literally started. I was an electronic warfare director, an intelligence analyst. So pretty different.
I mean, now he's installing heat pumps. I mean, I found that amazing.
And earning more money.
Yeah, but just that's the caliber of guy that's coming through, and that's why when you turn up at somebody's house and they just go, "Oh, use the tradesman's entrance, go around the back, mate." They're still treating a lot of installers, a lot of people who get their hands dirty, as second-class citizens. There's not the status, there's not the kind of respect that you get, say, in Germany, for example. I was amazed, actually, when I went to work for the first German I ever went to work for. I turned up at the front door, and the woman, I said, "I'm the plumber," and she shook my hand. And I thought, nobody's ever done that before. Have you seen where my hands have been? But she was, that's what you do. They treat them was some civility and respect, which doesn't always happen with your, what we would call a knuckle dragging, you know, white van man, if you like, for want of a better word. Did you want to say something, my friend? No? I thought you just wanted to heckle. I want some heckling.
Well, we're gonna draw this to a close, but if anybody does want to start to heckle, just raise your hand and ask a question.
We see all the time that MIs are often poorly written with not much regard for best. How do you feel we can tackle? And do you feel that the MIs being so poor, you know, you look at all the pages of Vaillant schematics that have got buffers in, for example, because those companies are based in countries where there's no price disparity between gas and electric. You know, in Europe, we have the highest price disparity between gas and electric, so we have to get these installs 100% correct, whereas in other countries they don't. I'm just interested in your comments on that.
Now, could we just clarify, by the way, for those that don't know, MIs, he's talking about manufacturer's instructions, in case you were wondering.
I think they are actually, for the first time ever, starting to listen to us. The problem you've got is we are a tiny speck on what they sell, what they do. When you open up the Vaillant Arotherm, you have got instructions in so many different languages, it's ridiculous. So they're not overly fussed about us, but because what we've done in the last 2 years, using third-party monitoring and showing them how it can work the way we do it, they're starting to listen. Because you will get some of the warranty engineers. We've had massive problems where they've got warranty engineers out and they'll go, "You've not got a buffer." There's nothing wrong with it. They go in there, they change all of the controls. It knackers the system. Geek have now been able to get high level, talking to the actual bosses of the bosses to say, "This is what we want," and they're going, "Okay, we'll do that for you," because they're understanding that you walk around here this year. One thing I've noticed this year, the manufacturers are asking us questions as opposed to telling us what we will be doing. They're taking our opinions on board because they don't actually know. A lot of this lot, they're not technical, they're a sales arm. You phone up to speak to technical, on most of these manufacturers, it's like pulling teeth. So basically, we've learned for ourselves. The groups that we have got guys that are very, very clever and specific to certain manufacturers, but they'll rip it apart. We'll put a job in thinking, yeah, that'll work. It might not, but it might. But as soon as it does, we're telling people, and then we'll know why it's working. We've had closed meetings with Wiesmann where they've actually then turned around and gone, "We're going to supply this monitoring equipment because we want to see what they can learn." But they are starting to listen to us. When it comes to giving it over to the customer, the handover pack, to me, it's a waste of time. You go, right, here's your handover pack, John. You go, what the bloody hell's all of that? I'm never even going to look at it. But we have to do drawings and schematics and all the rest of it. It's part of the MCS crud we have to go through. But if you do get a good company, and not with Geek and the guarantee and everything else, it's not just, if I win the lottery and run away, Geek are going to send someone else out that's at the same level as me. So you're not hoping and praying that you've got someone that you can phone up to come round that's going to know what they're doing and not turn you over. That part of it is changing, but it's incredibly difficult.
Well, thanks everybody. I think we're almost at the end of the show. John?
Just say one thing, and it's thanks to Heat Geeks for coming to the rescue, and a particular shout out for Roger and all the work he does, because I think he's an exceptional guy. I'm very pleased to have become associated with him.
Well said, John. Well said. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thanks everybody. Enjoy the end of the show. We're nearly there. We can nearly put our feet up.